Hello and welcome to episode 1041 of The Sleeper and the Bust. It is Friday, April 15th. I'm your host, Paul Sporer, joined this morning by Justin Mason. Justin, happy Jackie Robinson Day. How are you?
I'm doing well. This is one of my favorite days of the year. Nothing like not being able to figure out what player is which on the field. It's amazing. Like
a real
number
test.
40, just rooting for number 42 in every
exactly.
game.
A real test of how well you recognize players. I will say, with Matt Chapman gone from Oakland, it will help and Mark Canha, because Mark Canha, Sean Murphy, and Matt Chapman all look the same.
Mm-hmm.
And it was always confusing with all three of them. So now we just have Murphy, so that part helps. But obviously a lot of other teams, if you don't know the players that well, it can be a little bit like, who is that? Who's that?
Mm-hmm.
Who's that? But it's a great day. It's a great day to celebrate. I got my Jackie Robinson jersey on, my Brooklyn.
That's a pretty sick Jackie Robinson jersey. And as much as I don't like the Dodgers because I'm a Giants fan, and I am wearing a blue, my Blue Friends of Fancy Benefits sweatshirt in honor of Jackie Robinson Day, that's a pretty sick setup you got.
Appreciate it. I really like it, and I try to wear it every April 15th, even the COVID year when shit was going completely askew. April 15th, got to break it out.
Mm-hmm.
We got plenty to talk about today. Not a whole lot of news and notes. Honestly, just one that I'll put back on here because it's not super actionable, except if you play daily leagues or NFBC, where you can change your lineups for the weekend. Jonathan India pulled up with a hammy. David Bell suggested that he could play Saturday, but that means he's out today, Friday. Are you sitting Jonathan India in weekend lineups with NFBC or daily lineups? Obviously, you can take him out today and then decide. But what are you doing in NFBC with Jonathan India?
Yeah, I pulled him out of my lineup. 2 games maybe, one game
against the Dodgers
potentially. Yeah, against the Dodgers. I figured just safer to make sure I'm. The last thing you want is take a 0 when you don't have to. We're all going to take zeros from time to time, so
sure.
Don't force it and risk taking another.
Yeah, exactly. That's really where I come out as well. When you have somebody like Jonathan India here, and it just doesn't look like he's going to play at least the one game, and then they're going to have to revisit it. On Saturday. I just don't see the upside there. So yeah, that was really the only news that's moving right now. We are looking at maybe some COVID situations.
Mm-hmm.
The Mets just had Mark Canha and Brandon Nimmo, so you can take them out for the weekend. But I really hope that we don't kind of start to see a wave, and that becomes another thing that we have to that we really have to deal with. So right now we're monitoring it. Obviously, it can always crop up kind of at any moment, but are you majorly concerned here or hoping it's just an isolated situation?
Hoping it's just an isolated situation, but also remember that players can be put on the COVID IL even when they haven't tested positive, and that they can come back really quickly. So
stay tuned.
Yeah, so really you want to kind of keep an eye on these situations. Don't think, this guy's on the COVID IL, he's not going to play, because then he might be in the next day. Because teams are allowed to, until they get a positive or a negative test, put a guy on the COVID IL just to open up another roster spot. So this is something that people kind of forgot about from last year. So we'll be seeing that as well. Guys who are just sick and or have COVID-like symptoms, or have been in close contact, that get put on the IL for a quick amount of time and back. And then there'll be the ones that obviously have COVID and are going to miss time. So just be very careful when you read these reports and try to find if they look to see if they've tested positive or if they have COVID-like symptoms.
Yep, exactly. So, again, for this weekend with like Brandon Nimmo and Mark Canha, you could probably sit them because they should miss at least Friday, but it might not be a situation where they're out a substantial amount of time, because like you said, sometimes these are quick turnarounds. Pardon me, I know it's very early in the show, but I got to go get the dogs. They're outside, I forgot, and I need to let them in. I know I'm a bad person. I'll be right back.
Oh, all right. Well, for those of you watching live, this is what happens when you're doing a live broadcast, or if you're watching on YouTube, because I haven't quite figured out how you edit the YouTube videos that are done live. So hopefully Paul will be back very quickly. But for those of you who are going to be listening later on the podcast, I will make sure to delete whatever, however long that he's gone for. Hopefully everybody is enjoying the early part of the season and doing well in their leagues. I have some leagues that are doing really, really well, including my auction championship, which is kind of gone up as high as 5th overall in the auction championship overall standings. And then I've got leagues that are not doing so well, that have had lots of injuries, including my barf team, where I've lost my top 5 starting pitchers and my top 2 closers already this season. So this is one of the reasons why I try to stay risk averse and injury averse, because that kind of stuff happens.
There are 2 birds in the house.
There are 2 birds in the house. This is amazing. So we're going to do a little play-by-play. Paul is wearing the Dodger blue hat, the Brooklyn Dodger blue hat, and the Brooklyn Dodger blue shirt and red pants. It's an interesting uniform decision. He is walking around the house currently trying to find 2 birds that have gotten him. The birds have 80 grade speed, apparently. And he has not yet been able to locate them.
In the house right now.
I'm doing a play-by-play, so feel free to find them, because I'm doing a play-by-play for you.
Okay, there are 2 birds in the house right now. Henry's scared.
Can you describe the birds for us?
I gotta go get the birds, Henry. Come on.
So this is live for you guys. So Paul is trying to figure out how to get the birds. I wonder if he has a butterfly net, or whether he is going to. The dogs are freaking out. Paul has 2 dogs. One is a wiener dog. The other is a Cavalier King Charles Spaniel. Both beautiful and great dogs that I got to meet. But Paul is attempting to get the birds to go back out the window that apparently was left open. And so far, he has been unsuccessful.
Back and forth.
They are a live update from Paul himself. They are flying back and forth around the room. And Paul is really, really struggling with this. You would think, being 6'6" with a very long wingspan,
this is terrible.
Paul would be able to flap his own wings to get these birds out. But apparently that is not the case. While he has 80 grade height, he clearly has 40 grade, or probably even lower than that, maybe 30 or 20 grade agility. And this is turning into...
Took a huge tumble into the wall and fell straight down.
So we have a bird that flew into the wall and tumbled down. Paul is pulling his best Randy Johnson impression in an attempt to eliminate the birds.
One gone.
We are down 1 bird. So Paul is up 1-0 currently on the birds, or he may technically be down 1-0. We haven't really figured out the scoring for this kind of event. So Paul is also not wearing shoes, which is an odd decision when you're chasing a wild animal around. It has gone quiet. I don't know if the birds have won. Oh, there no. For a second there, I thought maybe the birds had finished Paul off and ended the game, but I did just see Paul briefly peek
1 gone, 1 at large.
So
I don't know if the other one is gone. Hang on.
So as you may have just heard Paul giving a live update, 1 bird is gone. The other one is missing. So this game has turned from a game of tag to a game of hide and go seek.
Okay, so 1 smashed right into the wall and then fell straight down. And I don't know where that one is. I don't know if he got back up and left. 1 did leave, though. and I witnessed that. Oh, Char's getting over there. Let me go see. We're not done yet.
So the game continues. This is similar to extra innings in baseball. Apparently, there is a bird that is already starting on second base, and Paul has to see if he can hit him or get him out before he scores the go-ahead run, and Paul loses the ultimate game. No word yet on whether the birds have defecated in his house yet, but I'm sure we can get a live update to him once he potentially finishes this inning or loses the game. So once again, Paul is walking around barefoot, attempting to find these birds. Okay. It appears that Paul has been victorious, and the bird did not score from second base in extra innings as we thought. We have some questions for you there,
Okay,
Paul.
go ahead.
How does it feel to win this round versus the two birds? You are at a clear disadvantage, them being 2 versus 1.
No, absolutely. And it's a situation where when we come in here, we got to play our hardest all the time, whether we're up against it or we have an advantage. So we're not going to go out there and make excuses. We're going to go out there and play our hardest and hopefully come out with a victory. It feels like today we got that done. But I got to give a lot of credit to my teammates. They were low to the ground, kind of keeping me check on the floor there. Even though the birds were in the air, it might not seem like they were doing much, but I got to give a lot of love to Charlotte and Henry here.
There's a lot of thought coming into this battle that your height advantage would actually help you. It didn't seem like that did. Can you talk a little bit towards that? It's
just that birds can fly as high as they want, and they can immediately mitigate my height advantage just by being, 7-8 feet in the air, whereas my wingspan is really only going to get me to, just over that 7 feet range. So once they were at 8 feet, unless I'm jumping, which I'm not doing a whole lot of that these days, I'm in some trouble.
There was a lot of discussion during the telecast that along with your Brooklyn Dodgers blue, you're wearing red pants and no shoes. Do you think your uniform may have worked against you?
Absolutely could have. The red traditionally associated with bulls, but perhaps these birds were a little bit flummoxed by it as well, and it was causing some confusion to where I couldn't necessarily get them to do exactly what I wanted. And then the no shoes, like you said, that kind of goes back to the jumping and them being just out of my reach. So it was a tough game, but it went into extras, and I think we came out victorious.
Last question before we move on to the actual podcast at hand. Who do you think is ultimately to blame in this? Who left the window open? Are you at liberty to talk about these kind of behind the, window conversations?
It was actually a door. It was the back door left open, a tradition that we've done relatively consistently here for our dogs. It stays partially cracked. They walk in as they see fit, and then we go close it. My girlfriend's not here right now, so I think the blame would fall squarely on myself for leaving the door open and forgetting about them when the pod started. I forgot I'd let them out, and they were so quiet, which is a rarity, by the way. They're usually barking their damn heads off because we have dogs at every avenue, and so they're usually talking to some of their friends. The fact that they weren't made me forget that they were out there until they started barking, and then I come to find out 2 birds were in the house, for crying out loud.
Quick follow-up before we move on. Do you think it might be time to invest in a doggy door?
It's a consideration. We've been talking about it behind the scenes. We'll just have to kind of see what the discretionary budget looks like, if ownership's gonna fund that or not. It's definitely something we've been talking about. We've been wanting it, but will ownership cave? I don't know.
Well, I really appreciate you coming on and talking to me after this amazing performance that started off a little sloppy, but ended up getting the job done. Congratulations on your victory.
Thank
and
you.
Now back to Justin and Paul on the podcast.
All right, let's talk about some early season standout hitters. I did some of these with Clay Link, but I had to save one in particular for you, and then I added a few more. We have to start with Connor Joe, because a certain somebody, when a couple moves happened in Colorado, did all he could to start crap talking on Connor Joe. And that was you, sir.
Me?
That was you. Yes. The Bryant move and then the Grichuk trade. Now, in a vacuum, I understand why, you might see a little bit of trepidation there, but at all points there remained time. If we flip the interviewee interviewer roles here, maybe I could interview you in a post game. Did you make a colossal error there pretending that Garrett Hampson was still a worthwhile player? And same goes for Sam Hilliard when you were shitting all over Connor Joe.
Yeah, I think I did. I think too often in the industry we try to make excuses or defend our point. I was wrong. Luckily, for me, I got him in some DCs early, and then he fell to either the 29th or 30th round of my last main event.
That's incredible.
And I just took the shot. It was 29th round because I finished up my draft with 3 straight outfielders that I felt that should be drafted that didn't look like they were going to be in Chase McCormick, Jake Fraley, and Connor Joe. So
good group.
Got to figure out which one I'm going to drop because I have to drop one of them, unfortunately. But
Fraley was who I kind of went for, and I had to forego I didn't have to, but I figured when I drafted Fraley, I was foregoing my opportunity at Joe, and it turned out to be correct. Michael Govier took him in our main event. So you got him in that second one. And I will say that was a pretty good comeback when I was roasting you on our group chat with Eno and Colette, and I was like, where are you at on your Connor Joe hate? He's playing every day. This was even apart from the fact that he was hitting. I was just talking about the playing time. Well, I got him in one of my mains. I was like, okay, fair enough. And I appreciate the mea culpa there. Listen, it did look like, okay, are they doing normal Colorado things here? They have a quality player who looks like he can play damn near every day and be good. And he's kind of a find for them. Connor Joe, 28 years old when they got him last year, kind of a journeyman. Is he quad A or is he more? And it looked like he's more. Are they blocking him off immediately? They are not. Grichuk is playing center. Chris Bryant is bouncing between left field and DH, and Connor Joe is shifting with him. They've had a fortunate schedule where they've had 4 lefties in a row. So that's 4 leadoff days in a row for Connor Joe, but he's played against all the right-handers too. So he's playing every day. He bats 6 against righties, 1st against lefties. Is Connor Joe in all formats at, or do you stop short of 10 teamers with 3 outfielders?
That's a really, really good question. Because
I was 2 homers in the Steele, by the way. Let me chime in there with the performance.
He's playing in Colorado, for half of his games. I think he's probably 10 teams, 3 outfielders. You're talking about does that make him a top 30 outfielder? I don't think it does.
Or probably closer to like 40, 45.
I don't know
because
that it does. It's close,
I agree.
Though.
But it's a little bit deeper there because think of outfielders that will be used at other positions and reserve guys. But it does start to look, even if we give him top 50, I understand that it's borderline there, but I think every other format, 12.
I think he's top 50.
Okay, then I think he's probably our phrase that we like to go to. Maybe not on your team, but on somebody's team in a 10-teamer right now for Connor Joe. We really like him. The talent is there. Does not strike out. Walks a ton. Getting into some early pop. He had a 184 ISO last year too, so it's not like he can't hit for double-digit homers, especially with Colorado protecting him for half of his games. I love Connor Joe, and I'm happy to see him performing well off rip. Let's stay out west and talk about another, much more lauded up-and-comer this year, but also had a situation where his price was depressed because of a move by the team. When Freddie Freeman signed, Gavin Lux's price went way down because there's no room at the end again. But then there was a late pivot when AJ Pollock was traded out. Does that open the door back up for Lux because he's an infielder outfielder, so he can move around anywhere? Every little move kind of seemed to open up the door for him. And here he is starting pretty much every game. He didn't start Thursday. I believe that was his first off day of the season. And he's performing as well. How do you feel about Gavin Lux on the early returns, specifically from a playing time standpoint, since performance is super volatile at this juncture?
Yeah, and this is super disappointing for me just because Lux is a guy I've always really liked. But they're bringing Freddie Freeman. It just seemed like he was kind of the odd man out. And they've done the Dodgers have done a lot in the past to block off his playing time and not give, and move him up and down between the majors and minors or between the starting lineup and the bench. And so I kind of just faded it just because I just didn't see the path to playing time. And then the H.J. Pollock trade for Kimbrel obviously gave him a real opportunity. And so far, he's taking advantage of it. And I love the fact that they are giving him pretty much everyday playing time at this point. So, yeah, I like Lux a lot. I'm bummed. I don't know that I have him in any leagues. If I do, it's maybe a DC or two or something like that. But I hope he does well because I think he could turn into like a legit 2020 bat.
Yeah, I know, this phrase can get thrown around a good bit about league winners. This guy can be a league winner from the waiver wire or from the middle rounds. I think Gavin Lux does have that actual type of talent. And he's just 24 years old. And I think anybody that kind of jumped off based on his 532 plate appearances initially that were sporadic in nature probably made a mistake. And I don't say that just off of 22 plate appearances. This is somebody who I really like. I believe in his talent. I think Gavin Lux could have an excellent season. So I'm excited that he's playing, and I'm really eager to see how the results pan out for him.
Yeah.
Let's talk Andrew Vaughn. Interesting prospect. Caused some consternation with an off day the other day. And listen, I like Rotosurgeon Kev a lot. I was on his pod. We're homies. But he tweeted out this what he probably thought was an idle hot take about why aren't they starting Vaughn against a righty on Tuesday, and they're starting Gavin Sheets ahead of him. And I didn't like that he took a shot at Gavin Sheets. By the way, I will say it's perfectly defensible to start Gavin Sheets, even over somebody like Vaughn, who I love, who's number 3 overall pick, who I believe can be a breakout guy. But he was kind of like, I thought he was making way too much of it. I just said, hey, it's an idle Tuesday lineup. I don't think it's a big deal. If he's not playing against righties into May, then I think we talk about it with Vaughn and we hit on TLR. But it's a little bit of a boy who cried wolf thing. If we hammer everything on somebody like TLR, then the stuff that's actually impactful is not going to resonate, because we're always just kind of Charlie Brown's teacher about Tony La Russa. That turned into a big shit show. Not even from Kev. A bunch of other people come out acting like I am crapping all over Vaughn and saying how big of a deal this is. I was like, it's the 4th game. You guys are fucking insane. I thought it was just the most colossal overreaction in a sea of overreactions. By the way, the first few weeks of fantasy are a nightmare for people just desperately overreacting to everything. Vaughn, all is right in the world. Vaughn has started against the righty since then. He is off to a strong start. I fully believe in the player. I just didn't care about a game 4 lineup when you're just trying to get guys in. I also surmised that because Grandal was DHing and McGuire was catching, that maybe Grandal was good enough to hit but not catch in terms of health, even though we hadn't heard anything about it. But anyway, this is about Vaughn. He's off to a quick start in his 19 plate appearances. It's a very tiny sample with a couple homers. Are you bought in on him? And is he somebody that can have a breakout season?
I'm absolutely bought in on him. I think he can have a breakout season. Again, another guy that I didn't get a lot of shares of, especially in the later drafts, just because he had that injury that kind of came, rib injury, I think it was, from diving in the outfield. And I do worry about like Tony La Russa and his lineup, whether or not he's going to, be regularly in the lineup. And when he is he going to bat, 8th? Like we saw him bat the other day. I'll be interested to see today whether he's in the lineup against another righty in Rasmussen. So, I mean, I definitely understand like people freaking out. At the same time,
no, you should not understand it.
I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying I understand. Like,
okay.
Because I mean, this is a lot like early spring training, right? Where we've been waiting for news, we've been waiting for action, and any little thing that happens, everybody overreacts.
We treat it as actionable. Exactly. It's actually kind of a problem, to be honest.
It is absolutely a problem, and it will go on for the next 2 weeks. And people are going to overreact. You have to remember, and this is kind of an analogy I used with you when we were talking about it prior to the show, or prior to hitting the record button. Imagine this is like a football game, and the football game, like the first series of plays are already predetermined, right? They've got a list of 20 plays they're going to run, and they may tweak things depending on the situation, but ultimately these are the first 20 plays you're run. That's pretty much how lineups get done, like the first week of the season, right?
Exactly.
And they want to make sure guys are getting in, that they're getting everybody a chance, to get in the game. They want to make sure guys have, days off. I wouldn't read a ton into anything super early on, especially slow starts or hot starts. Except for my teams that are doing well, we should read into they are amazing.
That's definitely the setting what's going to be happening this year. Yeah, it's like, I'm not saying don't pay attention to anything. Obviously, keep an eye on things and look at them. And I've been writing these box score bits and trying to decipher like what might be actionable, what isn't. It's not easy, but not everything is actionable. I can guarantee that. That I can say with dead certainty that not everything is actionable. Not everything is meaningful. And like you said about the lineups, I like that, the scripted part. Like, hey, we're going to get everyone on the bench at least one start before the 10th game, which means Danny Mendick's going to get a start. Reese McGuire ended up getting a couple. Again, I still feel like Grandal might have been dealing with something that, again, was enough to take him off the field to catch, but not so much to hit. And that's why they were doing the 2-catcher lineup there. I just didn't see it as a concern.
It may not even be that. It may be the fact that Reese McGuire is a really, really good defender,
exactly.
really, really good catcher, and that Grandal dealt with injuries last year, and they don't want to get him tired out early on in the season. So, but will that
be more of this?
Yeah, and will that translate later on into the year? It could. There's definitely some risk to Andrew Vaughn's playing time. We saw it last year where they didn't really want to play him. He's not a good defender out in the outfield. However, the White Sox are clearly committed to him. He was the main piece that the A's wanted in a Frankie Montas deal, and they said no. So, they're clearly committed to him, and you're not going to be clearly committed to a prospect like Andrew Vaughn and then not play him. So he's going to play.
Yeah, I agree. Again, absolutely zero concerns based off of the lineup for Game 4. That was my only point there. I repeatedly said in that thread how much I liked Andrew Vaughn, but boy, these folks were just not hearing it. Owen Miller, Cleveland guy. I feel like we can bring up Cleveland guys every episode on Hot Standouts. Clay and I talked about 2 of them, and Stephen Kwan and Oscar Mercado. We got a third here with Andrew Miller, who had a 2-homer game. Tearing the cover off the ball, has a MLB best 1048 slug thanks to 5 doubles along with those 2 homers. A prospect of some note, not a premium prospect, but like when he got traded over from Cleveland or from San Diego in, I believe, the Mike Clevenger deal, it was like, okay, this is a name. There is some prospect sheen here, despite not being a top guy. Are you making any moves off of this Owen Miller situation early on? He seems to have relegated Bobby Bradley to the bench by taking over first base right now, especially swinging a hot stick. Is Owen Miller somebody you're looking at?
In maybe a deeper league, in a 15-team league, if he's going to play consistently over Bobby Bradley, which one hurts me because I've got a lot of Bobby Bradley this year. Thankfully I can probably drop him in my fab leagues. I think he is someone interesting. I don't think if people are like, "Oh, look at that 2-homer game, maybe he's a real power hitter." I don't think that's the case. He's maybe a low double digits homer guy. That was just a big day.
I was thinking teens could come through for Owen Miller. He hit
potentially.
He hit 7 last year in 48 games at AAA with a 192 ISO. That was a big power spike for him. We'll see, if there is some power there. I do think 14 is probably what you're looking at, but batting average, he does not strike out, and he had a 40 graded hit tool last year with 55 future. It looks like at least early on, he's starting to get into some of that extra hit tool development with a 9% strikeout rate and 4% swinging strike. Now that's the quickest stat to stabilize is the strikeout rate. It still takes 60 plate appearances and he's at 22. So we're not there yet with Owen Miller, but that seems to be the main thing that he can do is make a ton of contact. It's been strong contact so far. So he's off to a really fast start. I don't know that in 12s, I'm probably having a tough time finding a fit for him. I think it's really 15s and beyond right now for Owen Miller.
What's his eligibility in leagues? Is
I
it?
think he would have come in with something in the middle infield, and now he's going to be working toward first base. I want to say he would have come in with second base. I'm going to click it right now and check. Yeah, second base on NFBC with first base on the horizon here.
That's interesting
So
because
that'll give him CIMI.
yeah, exactly. So it gives you like that multi-position eligibility, which really can cover 4 spots for you for second MICI in leagues that play with MICI. So yeah, I mean, I think he's definitely going to be a hot guy in Fab. I'm not going to break the bank for him though. Like that's
Definitely not a bank breaker.
no. I mean, he's like this is like a 2% of your Fab or a 3% of your Fab kind of guy, not a 10 or 20%.
Is he? How different is he than Stephen Kwan? He's different, but how different?
I mean, I think
Stephen Kwan got a 70 hit tool grade. So I want to be clear. There's a difference here.
I mean, I think they're pretty different, especially considering Kwan has already been moved up to the second or the 2-hole in the batting order. I think his playing time is much safer. Like if Owen Miller disappears tomorrow, I'm not going to be surprised. I'd be very surprised if Kwan did. Miller may have more power in his bat. Kwan definitely has more speed.
Yeah, that's the thing too. I wish I had some confidence that maybe Miller could run like 7-8 bases type of deal, but I haven't really seen anything to suggest
honestly,
that.
Kwan may have just as much power. Like I mean, I could see either of them hitting 11 home runs this year or hitting 17, 18 home runs.
Kwan hit a power spike last year that included 12 home runs in his 77 games with like a 200 ISO. If
his
some of that comes to the
numbers
majors,
Kwan's StatCast numbers in the minors were actually really, really impressive.
Yeah. Again, they are different. I wasn't bringing it up to suggest that they're the same. I do think Miller could do a poor man's Kwan imitation if some of the strikeout gains that he's had so far stick with the 4% swinging strike rate and the 9% strikeout. But Kwan is on another level. He had one swing and miss. It took it like 5 games in to even have a swing and miss. He's unbelievable with the contact.
I mean, the contact numbers for Owen Miller are pretty insane right now. It's got like a 96% zone contact percentage, a 4% swinging strike percentage, and even like an 86% O contact percentage. So making contact on the zone. He's above league average for in the zone. Yeah. So like, I mean, yes, is this definitely something to watch? And should you just pick him up in some leagues to ride the hot streak? Absolutely. But like, he's not going to continue even close to like what he's doing in terms of those contact numbers. And so, and because he doesn't have a ton of game power yet, I don't know that like this is going to continue to be a thing, but you ride the hot streak, he goes on a cold streak and you drop him for the next guy.
Yeah. I think that's where it's at right now with Owen Miller. It's not something where you need to go crazy for him. Yes.
I was watching the Mets Diamondbacks game and they had a pop-up and it landed in between 3 guys because they all got afraid of running into each other.
My God.
Poor Zach babies.
I mean, it is better than crashing into each other.
And it was number 42.
Oh, 42, you got to make that issue. You got to make that play. I mean,
yeah,
you got to get out there.
And I think is that Varsho and Setter just like pushed the shortstop aside when he was on the ground just to get the ball. That's great.
Move, dummy.
I love live baseball. Yeah, I know some people don't like the day baseball games. Man, do I love it.
Who doesn't like day baseball?
Probably people who have real jobs and can't watch day baseball.
Get a life, loser. I'm just kidding. Honestly, though, even if I was still in the corporate world, I'd love day baseball to have like something to distract me a little bit. I don't sit there working. Does anybody in corporate America sit there and work 8 straight hours? I don't think so. Get out of here. Y'all put in like 15 minutes of work. Chill out. Anthony Santander is a guy I know that you've liked in the past, and he's certainly had some buzz in different pockets of the fantasy community with some hopes that with some health, there could be a an additional breakout there. He kind of broke out in the COVID season with 11 homers and a 130 WRC plus of 2020, but that's 37 games. Last year, he couldn't quite replicate that. He kind of dealt with injuries, playing just 110 games and having a 92 WRC plus, but there were still the hints of what people liked about Santander. He's off to a quick start here with a 455 BABIP. The stats are tiny with 23 plate appearances and 7 walks or 6 walks already being a big part of his early production. But is Anthony Santander somebody that's an all formats player? He's already rostered for sure in 15s and beyond, and probably a good number of 12s. So this is really a shallower league discussion with Anthony Santander. And how do you feel about him?
So if you saw my ranks on our Patreon, or if you saw my ranks on Fangraphs prior to this, end of draft season, I already had him ranked kind of as an all formats.
Okay, outfielder. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, his main issue last year was health, just being able to stay on the field. And I think his bat's going to play. I'm not worried about the park changes. In Baltimore for him, being a switch hitter. So, yeah, I mean, I'm a big Santander fan. He is tied with Nelson Cruz as my second most rostered hitter.
Let's go
in leagues. Tied with teammate Cedric Mullins behind Nelson Cruz.
There you go.
So I have him in 50% of my NFBC leagues this year. So yeah, I'm a big Santander fan. Yeah, I mean, I'm a little surprised, like, how much he's walking right now, because he's been a 5%, 6% walk guy in the past.
I wonder if it's happenstance or something he's committed to, and he's kind of over-indexing on it early. That I don't know, but like it's 26% walk rate so far for Santander.
I will say the early returns, and who knows how much, this is extremely small sample. These things haven't, even themselves out enough for us to gain too much from it. But he is swinging outside of the zone considerably less. So, I mean, maybe that is, a case where he's legitimately trying to be a little bit more patient and not swing at bad pitches. And it's working so far. So, I mean, yeah, his swing percentage is down to 37% after being 51.5% last year.
Okay, so Santander does appear to be kind of consciously.
Yeah, it seems like he's making some conscious decisions. Now, we'll see if that stays that way, right?
Mm-hmm.
It just may have been a matter of, hey, he wasn't getting very good pitches, or like it wasn't like, oh, I'm laying off the close pitches. He was getting like bad pitches. I haven't watched enough Orioles games yet to know the answer on that. So, but I'll definitely try to go back and watch the film and see. And we'll keep a close eye on this.
But even in your shallower formats, you're considering Santander.
Yes, absolutely.
Somebody to pick up. What kind of power upside do you, or what kind of power output do you see? Not upside, because upside obviously I think can be like 35. He's got that kind of. But what are you expecting out of Santander this year, generally speaking?
I think if he stays healthy, I think he's going to hit 30.
Okay, that's awesome. That would obviously be massive, and every.
And I mean, I think he has legit 35, maybe even 40 homer upside if he stays healthy. And can, not, swing outside of the zone at bad pitches and stuff, which gets him out. So, I mean, I had him penciled in for, I think, 28 home runs in my kind of, quasi projections. But yeah, I think if he stays on the field, which has been his biggest issue, I think Santander can potentially be a 30, 35 homer guy.
Okay, great. Anthony Santander. All right, let's jump into some 2 starts and just kind of go through and talk about the formats in which we would use these guys, if any, of course. They're loosely ranked. They're not 100%, but you kind of got the better guys that are mostly all formats, and I just want to make sure that those shallower leagues, you're still using them. Then we'll get into some of the mid-tier guys, and then the back-end guys will be for deep leagues only. Like I said, kind of loosely ranked. You might have a few disagreements here and there, but I think the segments kind of work top to bottom there as far as the talent. Tyler Mcgill, one of the bigger breakouts so far, insofar as you can call anyone a breakout a week in. his 2 starts qualify. I do think because he's showed so much in such a little time that there is a ton of excitement for him. San Francisco at home, and then a trip to Arizona. Is this a slam dunk in all formats for you with Tyler Mcgill?
He could be going up against the Dodgers at home and the Rockies on the road, and I'd start him right now.
I would too. That's where I'm at with him. Literally all formats. Teamer. I'm starting Tyler Mcgill.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
I think
great. Then
if he's on a wire in a shallow league, you drop just. I mean, I think he's easily a top 40 starter right now.
Yeah. So that any league, you should be able to find somebody to cut, and it might be a tough cut, but in shallower leagues, you have to cut players that could pop up for the guys.
Somebody in our Patreon asked if I would cut Ian Anderson, and I said yeah.
For Mcgill, I would too, and I like Ian Anderson. I got big hopes for him too, but I'd take Mcgill. Alex Cobb is right there behind him. It's different situation. It's an older guy, but added some velo in spring. Looks great so far with that added velo carrying over. He gets home against, or no, double road to the Mets and Washington. Is Alex Cobb an all formats guy that you're kind of bending over backwards to go get?
He is. Especially in shallower formats, because in shallower formats, if and when he does get hurt, there's going to be replacement on the waiver wire. I mean, not to say you don't want him in deeper leagues. You obviously do. It's just,
but he's long gone in deeper leagues.
Yeah, and I don't have a lot of faith like he's going to stay healthy long term.
Check your wire. Always check your wire. Never
Absolutely.
assume.
You never know.
For most part, he should be gone in most leagues.
Yeah, no, but I think he's in all formats, all matchups play.
Okay, I totally agree with that with Alex Cobb. Jesus Luzardo, another spicy breakout that had some spring buzz. People are liking him. Home to St. Louis, at Atlanta. Again, we're focused shallower because most leagues that are 15 and 12s, Luzardo's already going to be rostered. Are you starting him are you picking him up and starting him in 10s and below for Jesus Luzardo?
I think this one's a little bit more tricky. He looked fantastic in that start.
Did you see that game?
I did.
Okay, so are you going to bring up the one thing that just takes a little bit of steam out of it for Luzardo and Sandoval? With all the strikeouts, the shadowing, I thought played a role. The fact that they were in the bright sun for like the first 3 or 4 innings, and then the hitters were in the shadow. I'm not saying they wouldn't have done well. They both pitched their asses off, but it might have been a couple extra strikeouts there of just like having no idea where the hell the ball is until it's literally up on you. So maybe in a all sun field or all shadow field, he gets 8 strikeouts instead of 12 or even 10. Like, he was dominant. I'm not here to crap on Luzardo. The bird is back. The secondary bird. I hear him running into the window right now. But we're just going to let it ride right now.
This is amazing.
2 starts. He is back alive. I think
I was originally going to edit that audio and put it into the back of the episode, but I'm just going to leave it in as is.
Okay.
Because there's been too many references to it.
To the birds, yeah.
Yeah. So, usually these kind of things I kind of edit out and then I put it in the back of the episode if it's funny enough. But this one has to I almost thought about leading off the episode with it. I may do that.
That would be pretty funny. But he's back, and Henry has come back in here. He's very panicked by that. But pardon me, Luzardo, you say it's a little bit more tricky. So our 10s and below, are you maybe giving a little pullback? If you're,
I think a 2 start, you're likely doing it unless you have other really good options. Just because a 2 start is too good of an opportunity to pass up. I made the mistake of not starting Nestor Cortez Jr. In a 2 start, starting with because it started with Toronto, and that looks like it's gonna hurt because now he gets Baltimore for the second half of it. But I'm not as sold on Luzardo as people are losing their minds. Like, oh, here it is, here's the breakout. He has been very inconsistent in the past from start to start. Like, there have been, and sometimes from pitch to pitch. I need to see a little bit more of a track record before I'm going to start saying, oh, this guy has arrived. The talent is definitely there. We've never questioned the talent. The question has always been, can he command pitches within the zone from start to start and not give up 2 or 3 homers? You talked about the strikeouts being there because of the shadows. Well, what's not there is hard contact because, hitters can't see the ball until it's too late. So I'm I'm definitely gonna take the gamble on the 2 start in the leagues where I do have him, but I'm not yet ready to anoint him over other guys.
Okay. I think that's fair with Luzardo. He was somebody that I definitely understood why people were excited about him and could see the upside, but I wasn't really diving headfirst back into him either. I was looking at other kind of
I got
breakouts
him in
in
some
that realm.
I got Luzardo in some early DCs where he was going like outside top 400 or 500 picks.
Oh,
Just because
nice.
the upside there is like,
Yeah.
okay, if I hit there, that's a league winner type player.
No doubt.
But when it came to like the main events and fab leagues and stuff like that, I couldn't find myself pulling the trigger over other guys that I feel a little bit more comfortable about the floor.
Yep. And that's kind of where I came out. Tristan Mckenzie had an opening day relief appearance that sent people into a bit of a tizzy. And being that we're direct body comps, I feel confident in saying that perhaps it was the cold weather that he was not sitting well with. It was 47 and super windy. And, that's freezing for us. And I don't know if Tristan Mckenzie feels the same way I do about cold weather, but I wouldn't be surprised if maybe that's why his command was completely off and his velo was down. So he gets his first start of the season, 4 shutout innings, 3 hits, no walks, 6 strikeouts, velo back up, temperature up 20 degrees compared to that game. Wind was still blowing, little overcast and rainy, but 20 plus degrees on the weather maybe felt a little bit better for Mckenzie. He gets the White Sox and at the Yankees. It's not an easy one. Where are you starting Tristan Mckenzie and where are you picking him up?
I definitely want to pick him up in most formats if I can. Obviously, 10 teams. I don't want to cut a top 40 or top 50 starter necessarily for him, but I would definitely try to get him on my roster.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, in 15s, you're probably starting him through this. This is a tough stretch, though.
It is, but I'm starting him in our main. I mean,
you probably have to.
I feel like I think we talked about this on previous episode, or I did with somebody recently. I'm more liberal with my starts early on.
Yeah.
And I think we talked about how you play a little bit more cautiously. I go the other way. I play a little bit more open, and I'm like, I can make up. You said you don't want to chase later, and I get that, but I just think with the amount of time that we have, that no start or two is really going to kill me. So I'm going to take the shot, and I believe in Mckenzie. I'm going to take the shot here with the 2-step, even though it is difficult.
Yeah, I can understand that. I think for me, it would be dependent on who else I have and things like that. But it's hard, especially in those 15 teamers, to not play those 2 steps. And so, yeah, I can see it. I think in shallower formats in your 10s and 12s, you may not want to risk it.
Yeah, but I would still want him on the squad.
Yeah, I'd still want him on my team, but I
totally see that.
I don't know that I want to mess with Chicago's lineup and
then
New York's lineup.
Yankees.
Yeah. So
no, I can understand that in the shallower formats with Tristan Mckenzie. Okay, so I listed these guys together because they are piggybacking together. Rich Hill and Garrett Whitlock, and I think both have some consideration because they're both like 3 to 5 inning guys. Now, obviously, they can't both go 5 innings unless the game went extras, but they're probably both just going to do 4 again. In that outing the other day, Whitlock came in and just shut that sucker down with 4 no-hit innings for the W. Love Whitlock. I think he's all formats. Like, I'm talking even shallower leagues. I want Garrett Whitlock right now because I think he can eventually start. But right now, he might be the closest thing we've got to that Ryan Yarbrough of many moons ago now, many years ago when he had that 16-win season as a follower. That Whitlock's the closest thing we got, and Whitlock's a hell of a lot better than Yarbrough was. So I really like the setup for him. What about with Rich Hill, though? And you can chime in on Whitlock, too. But is Rich Hill somebody with 2 starts that are probably going to max out at 5? Do you go for him? And the teams they're facing are Minnesota at home and then at Tampa Bay.
I don't mind the matchups. Not necessarily scared of Tampa Bay or Minnesota. But I don't know that he's going to qualify for win. I think the Red Sox will be really smart with Rich Hill and kind of limiting how deep they'll let him go into games. And, I mean, he's like a 75-year-old pitcher, and they want him potentially for the postseason. And so this makes a lot of sense, but I think it makes it really hard to start him I agree with you on Whitlock, though. I think Whitlock is in every format's play. You want him on your team, and you probably want him in your starting lineup, especially if he's going to continue to follow Hill, because he's going to get some sneaky wins. He's going to, potentially that Ryan Yarbrough season where Yarbrough just, had an opener and he got a crap ton of wins, 16 wins. So, yeah, I think I'm a little bummed I don't have much Whitlock because I just didn't know what the role was going to be. This role may end up being extremely valuable for him.
Exactly. I'm really excited about what's going on with Whitlock here. And I do think that even if he moves out of the follower role, it'll just be to start, right? Like he's going to be in a prime role one way or the other for Garrett Whitlock. His talent is immense, and I'm really excited about him. And hopefully you got some shares out there. Take a look on your wire. If he's available, he's great. And if you're in a league where you have to have relief pitcher spots, and you have like a starts limit, he becomes such a gem in those head-to-head leagues because he's essentially getting starts 4 or 5 innings out of the bullpen. So I really like Garrett Whitlock. With Hill, I mean, you can, but I agree with you. You're probably not going to qualify for a win in either of them. So I actually greatly prefer Whitlock to Hill. Merrill Kelly had a strong spring. I think he had a 13-1 strikeout to walk rate and looked really sharp there in his 7 innings. He has carried that over so far in the first 2 starts of the season with a 34% strikeout rate. Velo is up a full tick, and he's looking pretty solid. Is Merrill Kelly somebody that you're looking to start at Washington and home to the Mets? And if so, what formats?
Yeah, I think he's startable, depending on your other options in pretty much every format. I mean, obviously, if you're playing in 10 and 12s, you kind of got to pick and choose between what you got. But I definitely...
I got a present for you. There's a bird in the house.
What?
There were 2. One's gone. I left the door open for the dogs, and there's a bird in the house, and we're still alive.
Oh, God.
I'll take it.
That's
So, enjoy.
So, breaking back into this conversation, to this play.
Continue. So sorry.
We thought the game was over, but the game is just yet beginning, and now
they found the bird.
Yeah. Now there is a new player that has entered the field.
2 new players. Our friend Sarah is here with us.
Oh, this is awesome.
It's not awesome. They're freaking out. I'm so sorry to steamroll Merrill Kelly. I think Merrill Kelly is a traditional streamer right now. You pick him up for this in shallower formats. Team streamer and 15-teamers, though. I'm not cutting him after using him this weekend. And I might go team streamer and 12-teamers as well, depending on what my rotation looks like. In 10-teamer, traditional. You pick him up, you start him, and then you punt him. Okay, John Gray at Seattle, at Oakland. What do you think of the Rangers righty?
This is a tough one because I really like him, and this is not a bad spot. Bad places for him to be pitching. And obviously versus Oakland is a pretty juicy matchup, but you have to wonder, like coming off the IL, like how deep are they gonna let him go into games?
True.
I think you go for it just because Oakland is so bad that you could probably throw 6 innings against them.
Right. Especially after my performances against the Bird.
Yeah. You would think that would lower your stock, but it has not, at least not against the A's. So the A's also, though, I mean, they put up like some major run scores against Tampa just like out of nowhere.
Maybe they're not no, I still want to stream against them, but they have been off to a little bit of a start there with some big runs, but that's still a team that you're starting.
I think you take it. It's Seattle is a very, very interesting team with a lot of talent, but they haven't yet put it together. I mean, both Kelnick and J-Rod have struggled mightily early on.
They did have a big game the other day, though, where Kelnick went combo meal, and J-Rod, I think, had 2 stolen bases of his own.
Yeah, and then they played in a tornado yesterday, which was...
Oh, my God, that was nuts. Honestly, Logan Gilbert is so lucky to have gotten out with just 1 unearned run. Unreal, your strategy in that game, just hit it up in the air as high as you can.
Yeah, because did you see that Cal Raleigh home run? Like that should have fallen 40 feet short of the fence, and it just kept going.
Nuts, dude. That was nuts.
I mean, it was a really fun. I wasn't watching it at first, and then people like started like tweeting just like, this is insane. I was like, well, I gotta turn it on. So it absolutely was insane. Some of those drop pop-ups in the infield were just unreal.
And you got to imagine they're swirling like crazy for it to be up there that long, and for the guys to struggle like that. It was absolutely wild. I was watching that game, so I agree. John Gray at Seattle at Oakland, go for it. The other Joe Gray, Josiah Gray, you have to now go Jon. You have to go John's full name or JOS if you're abbreviating them.
Mm-hmm.
Josiah Gray gets a 2-step at home, Arizona and San Francisco. Is his strikeout upside enough to go for in 12s and lower, or is he a 15-team only type of guy right now?
Mm-hmm. And both of those matchups are home, right?
Correct. Double home starts.
So it's not like he's getting to play at San Francisco or at I kind of want him for the Arizona game, and I don't really want him for the San Francisco game.
I get that. Because Washington's sneaky hitters park.
And San Francisco is not a team that strikes out a ton. I think I take the gamble in 15s and probably not in 12s.
Not in 12s for Josiah. Okay. I'm leaning yes in 12s, no in 10s.
Yeah.
I need to see more consistency from him before I can really jump in 10s. Did you get it out?
Yeah, we got the bird out.
Bird's out.
We need to update the
2 for 2.
It's
my
clear.
Picked me up.
It's clear that the manager brought in the better relief arm.
Absolutely.
In Jen and Jen's friend.
They had to warm up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we had the bullpen warming, but I gave it all I could. But
I mean, we're still under spring training rules where you could have re-entered the game after being pulled. But clearly the manager made the right decision and went for the more talented, closer right there.
Better looking, just more talented. Totally
yes,
get it.
absolutely
Totally get it. Justin Steele gets a 2-step at home against Tampa Bay and Pittsburgh. Justin Steele is somebody who really interests me to the point where I was actually talking about him on stream, and I was like, keep an eye on him, guys, during this Colorado start. I could never start him. I'm not suggesting that, but I am intrigued by Justin Steele. And he held up all right in Coors. Mm-hmm. All things considered. His swinging strikes have not been there yet. He has a 6%, but it hasn't hampered his strikeout rate at 24%, which matches last year. I think his swinging strikes will get there. My concerns are he's a 2-pitch guy, fastball slider, and as such does have a gaudy platoon split over his career. Early on this year, he has reversed the platoon split, but I'm not sure that 9 innings of work is going to change my mind that he can now get out righties and struggles a little bit more against lefties. Do you go for Steele against Tampa Bay and Pittsburgh? And if so, what formats? Because he's pretty widely available.
You know who really likes him is SP streamer Michael Simeone.
Very nice.
He was talking about him back in February.
So I took him in the speakers league. I got some. I'm not trying to match Simeone there. I'm happy to say that he's the Steele guy. But I got a couple shares late in DCs.
Yeah. I may have him in ADC if at all. I don't know that I do. Yeah. I mean, he's definitely interesting. The 2-pitch mix is a little bit scary, and he's got 5 pitches that he throws, but three of them he barely throws at all.
The other 3, I should say. The other 2 are very consistent.
Yeah, I mean,
fastball and slider.
Yeah, I mean, he's thrown his curve 5 times this year, his changeup once, and his sinker 5 times. So, he's really not throwing them at all. Though those can, 2-pitch mix like that can work early in a season.
It can. We've seen like Huascar and Noah have some success. We've seen, Chris Archer, his career was kind of made off of it.
Mm-hmm.
Nelson Lamet, it can be successful. I do worry against, super righty heavy lineups. I feel like Tampa Bay will probably go they already do platoons. They're going to obviously see Steele's numbers. So expect a lot of righties to play on that day. Against him. And then the other matchup was Pittsburgh. Go for Pittsburgh, obviously, but you have to take on the Tampa start if you want Justin Steele. I'm going to go ahead and go for it in 15s. I'm
going to say no, actually.
You're going to say no in 15s even.
I mean, unless you don't have a better option, which can be the case in some 15-team leagues where it's just, I either got to throw this scrub for one or Justin Steele for two. I'm definitely going to take Justin Steele for two in that regard. But both Pittsburgh and Tampa have actually been good at not striking out against lefties early on this season. Small sample, obviously, smallest of small samples. But, I don't know if it's that great of a two-start. I think he would rank towards the bottom of the list.
I mean, you got Pittsburgh, though. So I feel like that makes it good on some level, just inherently, including Pittsburgh. I will say, if you like Justin Steele, this is probably not your last chance, but this could be the last chance to get him for a little while. Because if he goes off here, he's not coming back into the waiver pool.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I like him. I'm torn. 15s, I'm getting him and I'm starting him. 12s, I think I'm getting him and I might not start him.
Yeah.
So I'm in on the Steele experience. 10's too shallow. I think there'll be more options. Now, this one with the matchups, I think is probably going to be an easy no, but I know a lot of people like Yusei Kikuchi. He has to go to Boston and Houston. Are you in on him for this two-step, and are you in on him at all for the year?
I'm not really in on him for the year, and I'm definitely not in on him for this two-step. Boston crushes lefties.
Yeah.
So like there's even if it was like Boston versus Baltimore or something like that, I still would be very, very skeptical about wanting to start him against a Red Sox team that has guys like JD Martinez and Bobby Dahlbeck and Devers who just crushed left-handed pitching. So I'm pretty much out on Kikuchi. Kikuchi is a guy, who I've loved in the past and was like really like, I'm waiting. It's gonna happen. Now I need to see it happen before I buy him.
That's the thing. Every spring we seem to get back in, we being the fantasy community, I've actually not really been in that much on Kikuchi, seems to get the energy pumped back up about him. And then
we see increased velo in the spring, and with that increased velo, the breaking stuff breaks just crazy good. And then once he starts building up, he's like the opposite of a lot of other guys. Like, because he's throwing more pitches, he has to dial it back so he doesn't hurt himself. And if the breaking stuff doesn't break like it does, it just sits in the zone and guys just crush it. So I'm not in on Kikuchi until I see him put it all together.
Just not a guy for me. Kyle Hendricks had a great first start. Everyone's like, oh, he's back. This is why you don't overreact to one start, obviously, because then Pittsburgh roughs him up. And the thing of it is, at this point, I think it took a long time. So those of you that were anti-Kyle Hendricks, you were wrong way too long to say you're right now. But the guy that a lot of his detractors thought he was when he was dominant from 2014 to 2020, I think he's now that guy. And what that is a streamer who lives on a very thin margin to where when he's off, any matchup can get him. And when he's on, he's actually matchup proof. But you just don't know where that's going to be. So with a two-step coming up, do you trust Kyle Hendricks with Tampa Bay and Pittsburgh? Both at home.
Do I trust him? No. Would I be willing to take
the
gamble? Probably, but
I would in 15s and 12s. I would not in 10s.
He looked so bad in spring that I pretty much took him off my board.
Were you encouraged at all by the first start?
No.
Looking more like Kyle Hendricks himself?
No, because while the command was there, he was still throwing 86 miles an hour.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's that margin that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And I didn't really watch as much of that start.
I watched the whole start, and
and so what was it, a little fraudulent that he was, because he pitched well, but was he not? I mean, he still had 3 walks. He did have the 7K.
Yeah, it wasn't vintage Kyle Hendricks. Like it wasn't like, and I just wonder if we've gotten to that point where this is who he is now. Then,
I think it is. I think he's like this next guy, and he should be in the same frame of mind as this next guy, Cole Irvin. And I'm going to balk back. I'm going to pull back and say no on 12s with Kyle Hendricks and say yes on 15 still. Cole Irvin, Baltimore and Texas, both at home. I think it's where Hendricks is right now, where it's like he can give you some good outings. He's going to be streamable. He's a traditional streamer. We use him for 2 starts or good starts, and you can cut him easily. He had a 4.24 ERA last year with a 1.33 WHIP. I think that's the thing too, is that he's known as like a finesse command guy. Cole Irvin is. still had a 133 whip last year. Like, what I don't see, low strikeout, or I don't see the low walk rate delivering a good whip. With this two-step here, Baltimore and Texas, I'm starting him, but it's, again, as traditional as it gets. Start him and then immediately cut him after that. So I would start Cole Irvin in 15s, 12s, no in 10s. I think there's got to be better options in 10s.
Yeah. And I'm going to caution people that he's pitching both his games at home, which is usually a really good thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
However, his two-step is on Tuesday and Sunday, and this area is supposed to be hit by some rainstorms. And you could lose one of those games, and he could get pushed to next week. So while you like the two-step, and he actually looked pretty decent
yesterday.
In his start yesterday. I think there is a reasonable chance that they lose one game next week because of rain, and his two starts actually pushed off into the following week. So, just kind of a heads up on that. So if you're really in between two guys that have two steps, and Cole Irvin's one of them, you might actually want to go to the other guy just because I think there's a reasonable chance he does not get two starts.
Good tip. Appreciate that. Another guy very similar to you're seeing a theme here with Hendricks, Irvin, and Madison Bumgarner, finesse guy that kind of lives on a thin margin, is at Washington and home to the Mets. Is that enough to get you in on Mad Bum?
Oh man, this one's brutal, man, because I drafted him in at least one of my main events, and I think my auction, because he had an opening day start. And then I kept him around because I knew he'd be getting this two-step, and I didn't play him in his last start where he pitched fairly well.
Wait, wasn't it against Houston though?
It was. Well, no. So he was only supposed to have one start, and then did he end up getting two, or did that second start get pushed?
Was he supposed to get a two-step before this, you're saying? Because he has the two-step this week. Because he started against San Diego, and then now Houston, who he pitched well against, 5 innings, 1 run, but only 2 punchies. So now it moves his two-step here to this week.
Okay, so something must have gotten pushed back, because now he's starting on Monday for a two-step. So it's actually going to work out for me. And I will get the two-step.
I do. Use him against Washington?
Yeah. Bumgarner's looked really good in spring and in that first start. And the real difference, one, the velocity has been back up to kind of where it had been previously, but more important than that, as Dalton Varsho, I think, almost took Bassett deep. Ooh, that was close.
Wait, how far? Where are
I'm probably far behind. You know how my team.
Oh yeah, that's right. You're behind, not ahead. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
I'm in the top of the third. So, but what's more impressive is, for the first time in a few years, he's really starting to hit his spots within the zone. His command is back in a way that it hasn't been
for
Bumgarner. And so I'm definitely more interested in, he is like I think a 15 team streamer right now. I don't necessarily want to drop him into the market. I think it's still in 10 and 12s. You're looking at him as just a regular streamer.
Traditional streamer, yeah.
But I would definitely start him in this two-step. I'm not afraid of Washington or the Mets right now.
I'll co-sign that. Team streamer in 15s, traditional streamer in 10s and 12s, where he fits your team. I would not go crazy. There's a lot of guys on this list that I'd go over Bumgarner in 10s and 12s, but if you get him, just a traditional streamer.
Mm-hmm.
Couple of Pirates getting two steps with JT Brubaker and Mitch Keller. They go to the Brewers and to the Cubs. Either of them spark anything for you? I know Keller was delivering, driving some fantasy focus with the heavy velo increase.
He's still who we thought he was.
He still looks kind of terrible.
Yeah, he's still the same guy. Like, yeah, the velo is great, but like he still doesn't have control or command.
It was a 13% swinging strike rate in that first outing. At the very least, there was something
great, but he still doesn't have command or control. Like, that's still a problem.
St. Louis walloped him for sure.
Yeah. So Brubaker's interesting. I don't know that I want to start either of them necessarily. I feel
like Brubaker makes his own trouble. I feel like, man, like with those 3 walks to start his last outing, it's like, come on, man. Like, obviously, easier said than I'm sitting here like, just don't walk, guys. Like, no shit, Paul. But I'm just saying, like, when I see that, my shoulders just slump. I'm like, damn it, this is a good start against Washington, and he actually still went 4-30, kind of still salvaged it after 3 walks in the first. I want to like Brubaker. I actually want to like him a bit more than Keller. I know that Keller drove that hype, like I said, but Brubaker actually interests me a bit more. I don't know that I'm going for either, even in a 15-teamer though.
At Milwaukee is not a great place to pitch,
and the Cubs are off to a decent start.
Yeah, the Cubs actually look decent offensively. I'm not. I mean, they're not a team that I'm avoiding necessarily, but they're not like a walk in the park that we thought we might see.
Would you pick up Brubaker for a stash then, or do you only pick up guys that you intend to use in this situation?
I think it depends on what my team context is. Like there are very few teams I think right now where people are feeling like, hey, all my guys are healthy and I can stash a GT Brubaker.
Yeah,
like
no, I'm with that. Like you got to be in a pretty good spot to be able to be stashing anybody.
Like even
right
my
now.
really good teams right now have hurt guys. Like I don't know that.
Are you even ready to cut some of your late round sleepers? That's another thing too. Like, who do you cut if you're trying to stash a Brubaker? So you'd have to be in a pretty fortunate situation. I think you make a good point there. And so Keller right now is still in a full wait and see mode for you. You have to see something to even care. You wouldn't jump on this two-step. Okay. What about Yohan Adon from Washington? Hard thrower, got some swing and miss. Probably even more, not probably, definitely more raw than Josiah Gray. So is a more raw Josiah Gray somebody that you want against Arizona and San Francisco after you are a little bit lenient on Josiah Gray himself? What do you think? I think your facial reaction tells me everything I need to know, but I'm asking just to be thorough here.
I don't know. It feels like he was talking to Josiah Gray, like, prior to his starts. It's like, and Josiah Gray is like, yeah, I like giving up a couple home runs here and there, and Yohan Adon. It's all like, oh yeah, watch this.
Okay,
I'm gonna give up 2 at Pittsburgh. Like I'm not even at home.
I know.
Like I'm in like one of the best pitchers park in baseball, facing one of the worst teams in baseball, and I'm just gonna give up 2 jacks. Oh yeah, I'm also gonna throw 3 walks on that in 4 2/3.
How's that sit with you?
The arm is electric. I mean, if he ever learns how to command his stuff, I think he'd be really good. I have zero faith he's going to command it, and I don't want the worst thing you can do on a 2 start is have 2 blow-up outings. These are the kind of guys I completely stay away from early on in the season that I will be much more apt to attack later on in the season because, like you said, I like to play conservative early. And then if I need to make those kind of Hail Mary throws later on, I will. Adon is a Hail Mary throw.
Too early to throw. I agree. Daniel Lynch, interesting lefty for KC, gets Minnesota and at Seattle. Is there any intrigue there for the I guess I don't know if he's a prospect anymore based on technical qualifications for prospect lists, but he's still a prospect in the real world with 73 innings under his belt. Daniel Lynch, anything for you?
I don't think so. I mean, I like Lynch. I think he's one of those guys that I wouldn't mind stashing in a deeper league where I have the spot, but I just Kansas City pitching looks so bad right now.
I know they haven't really shown. None of those guys have really poked through and said like.
Remember when everybody was praising that organization for drafting all these college pitchers? Like, hey, these guys are going to be ready, and they've got really high floors.
Yeah, just a real
as high as people thought it was.
Real deep arsenal of guys to dole out there, exactly. But we haven't really seen it from Keller, Bubic, Carlos Hernandez, and Daniel Lynch right now. I'm going to be a little bit more interested in Daniel Lynch, though. We're starting to see some of the swing and miss come together, not based off of the 1 5-inning start, but he had 12% swinging strike rate at the majors last year. I'm a little bit more intrigued by this. Minnesota and at Seattle is not an amazing setup. You can definitely get got by either or both, but I think I'm going to go ahead and take Daniel Lynch in 15 teamers with this 2-step here and see what I can get. I
can see it actually. I mean, Minnesota has been like a poor offense so far this year, outside of Buxton, raking early. So and they are striking out like 28% of the time right now.
And we talked about
29%.
Seattle, they haven't fully come together yet either. So I'm gonna take this shot here in 15s with somebody like Daniel Lynch, and then kind of see where I'm at after this week in terms of whether or not I'm holding him. Nick Lodolo, disastrous debut. Will that keep the pricing down, or will a two-step at San Diego and home to St. Louis get people back in? Where do you stand on Nick Lodolo?
I think long term he's going to be fine. I think he's actually going to be really good long term. So it does not change my long term outlook for him. However, I do not want to go up against San Diego and St. Louis in Cincinnati. So
no, it goes to San Diego and then home to St. Louis.
Oh, okay. So he's at San Diego and then home versus St. Louis. That's a little bit more interesting, but I still probably avoid it. I want to see, I do think he's better. So this is not like a comp, in any way, shape, or form, but I get the same vibes we got from Jackson Kowar last year, where everybody got really, really excited about a pitching prospect, and then he was just trash for anyone who spent a bunch of fab on him. I can understand people wanting to go for it. And I'm sure there will be people who do go for it, but that first outing was so bad that I just can't.
4 guys left. I'm a bunch them all because you just tell me if you have any interest in it. But my thoughts on Lodolo. I'm going to try to use the first bad start as a discount. I'm going to actually be looking at him in 15 specifically. 12s, it would depend on need. I think there's going to be too many available guys that I'm going to like more. But 15s, I'm still going to stay in on Lodolo this week to try to get him at a discount. If people pay kind of full freight and don't put any discount based off of that first bad start and they just go for the two-step at full price, they can have them. Dylan Bundy, Chad Kuhl, Kyle Freeland, Dallas Keuchel. Doesn't matter who they're facing. Do you want any of those 4? I will say for the 2 Rockies, Kuhl and Freeland, it's 1 home against Philly and 1 away at Detroit. So keep that in mind at least. But do any of these guys strike your fancy in any format? I would imagine it has to be 15 teams or deeper. I'd be surprised if you were going to come say you're going to play him in a 12.
I'm getting really close to the mic for this one to say no.
Don't do it. Yeah, none of these guys.
Please don't. Please don't put these guys on your team because it would just end poorly.
What if? How much would I have to pay you to get Bundy and in for at the White Sox or at the Red Sox and home to the White Sox? What would I have to pay you to do to bid him?
My entry fee for the main event.
Yeah, since you're basically giving yourself away.
Yeah.
All right, so great group of 2 starts there. They kind of run the gamut of league types. Shallow leaguers can go get Mcgill, Cobb, Luzardo, McKenzie, Whitlock. Mid-tier leaguers, go get your Merrill Kelly, your John and Josiah Gray. Maybe look at a Justin Steele if you're interested. A Mad Bum. Your mileage may vary on like a Hendricks or an Irvin. And then deep leaguers, you're probably looking at those other guys, Hendricks, Irvin, Bumgarner, Brubaker. And of course, in addition to any of those other guys that are available, and Justin Steele. But yeah, interesting 2-start week. And obviously there's some other guys that are studs that I didn't include because they're already fully rostered everywhere. So Justin, good luck with bidding this week. I think this is our first real week, right? Because we have a full week of data to go off of. So this is where things were really rubber meets the road. And you can put $500 on somebody the way everyone put $500 on Josh Lowe last week.
Not me.
No.
I appreciate other people doing it so they've got less money to spend later on. I would like to point out the fact that when we started this episode, I was 10th overall in the auction championship and first in my league. And in spite of the fact I have not had anybody play yet today, I have somehow dropped to 5th in my league. So I assume it's the Birds or something that
there's been 4 innings of play. I wonder what the heck happened to you.
This is how much standing change. Literally have not had anybody play, and I fell from 1st to 4th or 1st to 5th in my league. And yeah,
that's truly
wild.
Literally 4 innings of game time.
I don't care about the standings early on, but they're fun as hell to watch.
With respect to the Birds, the fact that there were 2 birds, do you think I should have simply gotten 1 stone in order to get there?
I feel like that needs to be the name of the
If
episode.
only I had-
Oh,
If only I had one stone available to me. All right, Justin, it's been a long episode because we're leaving all the bird stuff in. Sorry about that, y'all. Hopefully, you got a
fantastic.
laugh
I
out of
mean,
that.
this is in consideration for submitting for.
Is this
our
what we're going to
podcast of the
submit
year.
for FSWA? Okay.
I feel like it should be. I don't know that it would win, but I feel like it was clearly the best
Very
work we've ever
emblematic.
done.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. You should, wherever you put it, or if you just leave it in, Colt, you should.
I think I'm just going to leave it in.
But you should still clip it as a separate clip and maybe put it on Twitter. I'm just saying.
Yeah. It might be too long.
Oh, that's
to
true.
go on Twitter. I mean, it went on for a good
See if you can
6
find
minutes.
a good minute of it that encapsulates what's going on, and then say, "Hey, listen to today's episode." Anyway,
I'll definitely clip it and put it on TikTok and on Twitter. And it was
it was great talking with you. Have fun with any birds that may come your way this weekend because they're out of the house now. We got rid of them. But are you on Sunday with Jason?
Yeah. We'll be going on Sunday. We might even have a guest. I think Michael Waterloo of The Athletic. I booked him for FWFP, so we may not have a guest.
Okay. Well,
but I'll work on
the J&J
that.
show.
Actually, never mind. We are not recording this Sunday.
Oh, it's Easter.
It's Easter.
Yeah, that's right. It's Easter Sunday. Okay. So everyone have a wonderful Easter if you celebrate. Justin and I will be back on Tuesday next week.
Take it easy.